Dr. Bob was known to say you can boil the whole AA program down to 2 words, love and service. He also said the underlying philosophy for the 12 steps can be traced to 3 sources: Sermon on the Mount, Book of James, and 1 Corinthians. Well, if you're familiar with 1 Corinthians, that's the love chapter. If you've ever been to a wedding, love is patient, love is kind, that's 1 Corinthians. That's what these guys were reading when they put all this stuff together. So thanks again for Al and Adrian. Now they're going to go back, go tell it on the mountain. They're going to go back to the hills. And we appreciate them making the long ride. Lewis over there, don't forget Lou. He's going to pass around the 7th tradition. Please help out if you can. And he's also, if you want to give him your email, he'll send you copies of this stuff. So Lewis is right over here. Now we're going to bring it back a little bit. We're going to go back to a little bit of the youth movement, although I don't know that he's that young anymore. When I met him, he was, right? Another big book study, another area. About 10 years ago, I guess it was, something like that, we ended up in a place called Bel Air, Maryland, wherever that is. And these guys asked us to put together a big book study. And Jack was one of the original attendees. He was really young then, and he loved it. He stuck at it. A lot of those guys will be lifelong friends. I don't see him that much. I know he's traveled around a little bit, but he came up from the Baltimore area, right? Bel Air, I never heard of Bel Air in my life. All I ever heard of was the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, right? Which, interestingly enough, I grew up right around the corner from where he was talking about. So everybody, please help me welcome Jack D.
Love you, man. Thanks, man. One more time for Al and Adrian, though. Come on now. Al up here talking like a Jedi, man. I don't know. He had me feeling pretty awesome. My name's Jack Devlin. I'm an alcoholic, and I will not be afraid to talk over you. I do like to get loud, and I'm really happy to be here. This has been an awesome day. So let's just start there with just thanking Darren and the crew for the food, and the crew for Zoom, and the crew for recording, and everybody that had anything to do with setting up a chair or getting a bottle of water or anything. Thank you guys for putting this on. And I'm a guy that's a big fan of AA. A lot of times that's not always the coolest thing, depending on where you may be. But I really love being here. And I think it was Chris that said it first. That, events like this aren't always something that you get, a day like this, a day-long thing, people that actually want to be here, people that actually really want to, talk about the steps and talk about getting free. I don't know how many times we've heard the word freedom today, but I'm really happy to hear it because that's what I got asked to talk about, which is pretty awesome. But I think it's special, and it's important to take a moment to just even acknowledge that, that we're here, that we're somewhere where a whole bunch of us want to be, and our most of us, at least hopefully, maybe not all, kind of experiencing a common road in AA, something that's a little that's hopefully very real for you, that hopefully is something that is changing your heart and changing your mind. And if it's not, I hope you get with somebody, whether you're listening right now or not. I hope that if you're not having an experience, if you're not having an experience around here, and you're in pain, I hope that you're hearing the message that there really is something else here. And freedom is the end of that, is the end of the beginning of whatever you might be, whatever part of the journey you're on, but freedom is a piece that, for me, for a long time around here, I heard people talk about. I heard shares about being free. I heard people quote famous people that talked about freedom, but I'd have never like really experienced what it was like to be free. You know, I didn't know freedom. I knew freedom from the physical allergy. You know, I was really well acquainted with freedom from the drink or freedom from whatever you were doing. But I didn't know much about being free throughout the course of a day. I didn't know much about being free at an event like this. I didn't know much about really being free anywhere until I got engaged in what I was asked to talk about today, which are steps 8 and 9. And you hear a lot of different things depending on where you are or who you're around, especially about amends, you know. And for me, I ended up with an experience and being sponsored in a way where there wasn't a ton of wiggle room when we got here. You know, there was not a ton of wiggle room, and eventually, you know, there came a point where I had to look at what I hadn't done for like 6 or 7 years. You know, and the biggest thing that I hadn't done for 6 or 7 years was exactly what we're talking about right here. You know, was making direct amends. You know, I pointed at other people that were happy in relationships, but I had 77 exes I'd never made amends to. I pointed at other people that were making honest livings and had a decent something going on, and I had thousands of dollars of unpaid debt, right? My thought is always, if I go get something, then I'll have something. Never in a million years did I think if I cleaned up my past, God would then somehow start to show me how to be a part of those things. That didn't make any sense. And still, kind of as I say it right now, a little hard to believe, you know what I mean? Like, but it's real. I mean, that's what's happened to me. But when you put that on paper, you know, it doesn't make a ton of sense, you know? So again, fortunately, what we had today was some people talk about in a lot of different ways, why am I even making amends? What are you even talking about? You know? And it all begins in lack of power, right? That's where we started. That's where Devin brought us. I'd ask everybody to clap for him, but he's not here anymore, so we don't need to clap for him. We can throw him a spirit clap. That's good. You know, hopefully he's driving safe to upstate New York. But he did a great job talking about the condition that I suffer from. You know, this mind and internal condition that grinds me when I'm not drinking. Something that happens when I'm sitting in your meetings, listening to you talk about being okay when I'm not feeling okay. You know what I mean? Like this thing he pointed his finger at and communicated incredibly well. You know, and that's the condition that I have. I don't have the condition of, you know, I stop and I go on this slow road to feeling better. I do that for about 90 days and then I peak. That's about what I got, dude. I got a couple months in me. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, I just start feeling a little funny. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what's wrong because I'm sober, man. You know? And everybody here talked about that. They've already alluded to that. I'm not going to do it again, but the truth is, if I don't need power, I'm not knocking on doors. And if I don't need power, I'm not paying you back. And if I don't need power, I'm certainly not going to see women who rooms full of people that I've sat in would tell me I didn't need to go see. I'm not doing that. Until I sit with someone who has done that, I don't do much. Right? Sponsorship is incredibly important. Because where I'm weak, they're weak, and where I don't have direction or haven't experienced something, how am I going to talk to you about doing something? You've crushed the hearts of people, and I've never walked through the hearts I've crushed. What am I going to tell you to do? Just don't do it next time, bro. Well, if you're anything like me, guess what's going to happen? 1, 2, 9, 10, 6 years later, you're going to have done it 77 times in and outside of AA. With members new and old. With people that you would like it to be advertised about, and many who you would rather it never be shown anywhere upon the light of day. Well, I'm the guy, man, next time it's going to be different. Next time, according to what logic? You know, and this was a beautiful thing we just got to see right before me standing up here, right? This idea of love, this idea of relationships, this idea of partnership. And how cool Al walking it in at the beginning, talking about sponsorship. Someone showing me what that's like. But this idea about love that they both talked about beautifully. showing someone their true self. My story is that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me. I'm going to read something real quick. First, I want to plug my home group because I'm madly in love with it. We're a group. We're called the Firing Line, and we're based out of Baltimore, Maryland. There's a few other members that are here with me today, and we'd love to have any of you come join us. If you're ever in the mood for a road trip on a Tuesday, we'd love to have you. And I've been sober since August 19th of 2012, and I feel really fortunate that I finally went back to the steps at 6 years sober in the fall of 2018 and got engaged in the process that we're diving into right now. So I'm not here to theorize about the 9th step with you. I'm not here to talk to you about what the word all might look like if I happen to think about what that word would look like in step 8. I'm here to talk to you about the experience that has happened to me with the words in the big book and how it has translated into my life right now, today. What a gift. Because a long time, AA always felt a little bit like class. You know what I mean? And just a little bit theoretical, especially when people talked about the steps. It was always just a little bit airy. You know what I mean? And it's been alluded to today. We can study it. We can quote it. We can jam it. We got different color, but we got all kinds of stuff now with the book. And what's it like to do it? What is your experience with it? And for me, the first piece of that's what's my experience without it. And it's not pretty. It's really not. It's not good. I'm the guy. So I spent 2 years here from 2010 to 2012, going to a lot of meetings. I went through the steps, but I didn't have an experience. I couldn't tell the truth. I was completely insane. I came unhinged at 26 months sober, and I got unsober from a sober state because that's what sobriety will always do unless I get free. Period. That's it. So that's what happened to me. I came back in August 2012. A couple months after that, I started to really get fired up about the message that guys like Al and Chris were talking about. These are some of the first guys that I heard. I'm in Bel Air. We're driving an hour to Philly because we can't get enough. Give me something, man, different than what I got. I want to come listen. I'm coming to Holy Family. I'm coming to the anniversary that Al's doing at the Stones. Just come on. So cool to be here with you guys today, by the way. It's just awesome, man. So many of you people. It's just so cool. But I started chasing it, right? But I'm the guy that for the next 5 years went through 5 sponsors and did 1 through 8 and 10, 11, and 12. And the only part of 8 I did was make a list. Like that, but that's my story. That's what I did. But I went from making a list to doing 10 steps, trying to make myself feel better, praying in the morning, and let me just help as many people as I can. I stayed sober, but I had a rather interesting road. You know what I mean? And I'm currently facing some rather interesting consequences from said road, So not actually engaging in this piece of this process to me, it left me with a whole lot of knowledge about what alcoholism is and an experience of learning about myself in 4 and 5 and what's blocking me from this power. But then the biggest piece, as I see it currently, it's just my current experience over the last couple of years. The biggest piece of direct action I can take to directly remove blockages between me and God, I didn't do. So I never got unblocked. Period. That's how I see it now. But at the time, I just, I got stuff to say. I got stuff, all kinds of different things happen, and what ends up happening is at 3 years sober, I get a phone call, and I was living in Bel Air at the time, and this guy I grew up with calls me and goes, "Hey, Jack, what do you think about moving to Los Angeles and getting paid to help people?" And I said, "Hey, God, what took you so long to call, man?" You know what I mean? So we're talking Hollywood, and we're talking getting paid, and we're talking helping people. This is 3 for 3, baby. We just hit out the park. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, I'm there. How much is the ticket? Can you buy it? Am I buying it? What airline? Let's go, There's a hold on. I got to pray. I got to talk to my sponsor, and I'm the type of guy that I take that phone call. I don't talk to the sponsor right away. I didn't wait too long, but I formulated the deal. I had sponsor, family, boss. I had everybody convinced this was the best opportunity that had ever happened to me and put them in a position to where they would feel like they were robbing me of something wonderful in my life if they told me anything except for, "You got to go, Jack. You got to go, man." And so that's what they did. My boss at the time gave me a loan to go start this company. This company is now why I'm currently looking at conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud charges. You know what I mean? So it's like, but that's how I can spin it. No, come on. No, man, this is with the best motives, with the best intentions. You know what I mean? And I didn't go out there trying to commit felonies, but I committed felonies. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a reality of what happened. So anyway, I get this phone call and I go out there, and again, I go there and I'm looking for people to help, and I'm staying sober, but I was not sponsored for years, and I left 8 and 9 off the table for years. What did happen while I was there was I fell in love with a beautiful girl. This happened. And that hasn't gone anywhere yet. Thank you, God. I'm more in love with that woman now than I know what to do with. She's so beautiful. Adrian, say it again. Say it again. Amen. Absolutely. But for the grace of God, there go I. So anyway, I fall in love with this girl, but I can't stay with her. Right? I got 4 or 6 months in me. That's the best I got. I can show up, we go to dinners, we do the date thing, hanging out, and then 6 months come and I'm just like, I really think I need to figure some stuff out. I got to think about some stuff. I'm scared, I don't know what to do, and then I leave for like 2 weeks. And then I come back and I'm like, hey, I don't really know what happened, but I'm really scared still, but I know I miss you. And then 6 months later, same thing. And so it happens for a third time substantially. But what happens this time is during the 5 or 6 weeks that we weren't talking, something changed inside of her. She went to a place she hadn't gone before. She got really more centered with God, and we ended up getting on the phone. And she tells me, she helps me see the reality of my life. In a very short, succinct, powerful conversation, I start saying things like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I really don't know what's wrong. I'm really not sure why I keep doing this and why I can't stop. I don't know what's going on. Like, I have no idea. And somewhere from an intuitive place, because a whole bunch of people in AA that have an opinion about our relationship told her not to say this. And thank God she didn't listen to them, and she listened to God, because our book's clear about the arbitration of whose conduct we shouldn't have, and it's everyone's, including Cleo's. Thank God she listened to her own power source, because in that moment she saw an opportunity to say, hey, Jack, do you want me to tell you what I think's going on? And for whatever reason, everything inside of me just goes, no. Everything inside of me wants to protect the money and protect the validation and protect the Cadillac and protect Oceanfront LA and protect that I left Bel Air and finally made something, and you're all still scared sitting in the man house working at ShopRite, and I finally went and did something in this world. You know what I mean? This is what I'm trying to protect. But what dribbles out of my pathetically terrified little mouth on the right side is, yes. You know what I mean? And then she does in a very loving but very clear-cut way. Very loving but very honest. And in that came the level of dishonesty, the level of blockage, the level of just crap that was all around me, the people I had surrounding me. It was just insane. And so the reason I'm telling this story is because this is the place where I restart the steps in the fall of 2018, 6 years sober. Right? So she brings me there. The next morning I wake up, I'm sitting on the edge of my bed. I see my entire life flash before me like 14 motion picture screens, and I know I got to walk away from 93% of it. That I am currently existing in 6 years, I'm about to have to walk away from almost every piece of it, except for my family and her. Pretty much. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, what? And it all starts coming. What I haven't done, what's been waiting there for years, what's still sitting on and I call a guy that tried to sponsor me like 4 years previously, but I didn't let him because he told me things like, you're, using people, and that's not good. And I was just like, you're not allowed to say that to me, man. And then I just didn't call him again. Because the guy, he wanted me to be honest. He wanted me to clean up my past. I couldn't do it. I get back on the phone with him. This man answers the phone and is willing to take me back through the steps, and that's what he does. And within 2 weeks, I got a written inventory, and I'm on a plane from Los Angeles to New Jersey. And I meet him at a hotel on the Jersey Shore the day before a conference started, and we went into a hotel room. And I read him an inventory, and we did a fifth step. It's like, as I think about that day, it's just like the man that has walked out of there and is living now is a totally different human. And at the end of that fifth step, I just begged. I dropped to my knees after he left. I just begged God to take whatever he needed to take to make me into anything except for what I had tried to do to myself But he was really clear with me before that. You want these things actually removed, you need to actually make direct amends to the people you have actually harmed, to actualize a decision that you said you made in 3. Excuse me, what, sir? Can you slow that down and play it back? He said, you actually need to make direct amends to the people you have actually harmed, to actualize the decision that you're telling me you made in step 3. And I'm just like, all right, dude. I'm at a place where now I'm 6 years. I literally had everything I thought I ever wanted. Literally. In the material sense, I really did. And I was, dying, black, just like decay on the inside, trying to just make it look as good as possible. That's why, Mr. Ron, you watch that Facebook too. It's a two-legged street, baby. That's a tricky sword to be on. You know what I mean? Because I can love to get in front of can get real funny. Ron was talking about Facebook, and I just started thinking some of the stuff that I used to do on social media looking for validation. Man, it's incredible. It's just incredible how lonely I've been in my life with everything I thought I wanted. And anyway, it's just my story, and I'm a little bit out there, So I left this conference in New Jersey, and that weekend we left Sunday, and Sunday, an hour after I left, I was stopping in not that far from South Street, meeting with Anthony's oldest daughter to make my first amends, who at the time was like a niece to me, a really good friend. And that process, a couple weeks ago, I was meeting with somebody like that. That's been a long road for me because of all those years untreated and what I had done with means to travel, man. I threw harm all over the place. I really did. And so this road started to look big, And a sponsor, thank God for just real clear-cut, simple, one amends at a time. There's no other way to make them, bro. You start making approaches, but you line them up. You can only do one at a time. I was sitting over there, and it was funny. I pulled out this little piece of paper, and I had a book that I wasn't going to bring, but that the couple of us got together at my house before we left this morning. My house. That's insane, man. I'm on federal pretrial release, and me and my wife just moved into our own home 2 days ago. What? You tell me God can't do anything, man. Can't do anything. But again, I believe it's a direct result of what we're talking about right now. But anyway, I pulled out this little piece of paper, and it's got this name at the top, Danny Leary. And this is a man that I tried to sponsor in LA while I was gone. And it's got all these different points on it. Terrible representative of spiritual principles, arrogant, tone, body language, dishonest work life, set an example that may have affected or impacted your life, and this was in that book. The last time that I looked at this card was when me and my wife were sitting outside of where that 25-year-old man is buried in Brooklyn, because thank God for sponsorship. I was shown that even people that have passed on, and thank you, Al, for going there, my man, that even people that have passed on, there is such a powerful experience in the realm of the spirit there too. That there is an amends that can be made to literally everybody. I'm not saying people that you can't find, and I'm not talking crazy stuff, but who knows? We got a lot of time left. You never know who's going to come back into our lives or where we're going to see them, right? I'm talking about people that literally have been buried. It's incredible. But again, I came into this process this time at this place of pain. The first time, the powerlessness hit me, and I finally saw what I suffered from. But for some reason, there still wasn't ammunition to go see everybody. It wasn't there. 6 years later, with everything I thought I wanted dead inside, it was there. We were locked and loaded, and the clips started to fire. And all of a sudden, it became clear. And as they started getting made, momentum came. And the first thing and the biggest thing, I'm living in this whatever house in wherever LA, and I got people that I'm living with and people that I'm close to, that my entire work life with these people has been dishonest, has been self-seeking, has been self-centered. I'm using them to line my pockets. But I'm living with them, and we're friends, and we've traveled for years together. I've done terrible things with them. I've done good things with them. There's a lot wrapped around it. And my sponsor just has me start lining out, what have I done to these people? How have I harmed them? Disregard all this other. What have you done, man? And I realize as I start like writing these things down and getting ready to go see some of these guys, like I'm literally making amends to these men for a lot of the things that we were really, really like kind of proud of doing for a while. You know, and I have to go to this to people and have them look at me and say, Jack, are you now better than me? Is that what this is, man? And I'm just like, no, man. They're like, well, you showed me how to do this. And now you're sitting here talking to me about the dishonesty and the self-seeking nature of it and how you used me to line your pockets. And often I didn't have much to say, and if there was a response, it was something like, at that time, that's exactly what I showed you, and I was rocking and rolling, and now I knew that then, and this is all I know now. I don't really know what else to say, except that right now, in this moment, as we sit here, this is the truth. And I know it's subject to change, but like, that's the reality. But when you got something like, and I tried, but when your life changes, that was awesome talking about life changers. I love the Oxford group. But when you start talking about when your life changes and you were walking with people a certain way, and all of a sudden your life goes like this, for me to not understand how that might feel on the other side is just as selfish as everything I did in the first place. So why can't I be there to hold and to understand that? And, you know, I mean, alongside of a rack of fear, I could. But, I mean, I'm also just terrified because I'm like, man, I don't want to be. Because I came from a school for a long time. There was a lot of talk about you're going to cause more harm by making some of these amends. That's it's a much more popular topic, it seems to be, in amends meetings than the other side of the story. You know what I'm saying? But like you want to talk about how you're going to hurt women by making amends to them? Talk to the woman I'm married to. That's who I want you to talk to about that. You want to talk about a demonstration? Watching this woman walk into a party like this that was a funeral and make amends to a man that went to prison for putting his hands on women just the way that he put his hands on her. The freedom and power that's available in this process, why are we shortchanging it in any way, shape, or form? And I'm the one that liked listening to that stuff for 6 years. Not people's fault for their experience. Rock on with your experience. It's all good. It's yours. But I'm talking about mine. And I loved that experience because guess what that did? It knocked half my list off. I don't have to do it now. That's like the whole thing of like, you know, make amends for stealing by not stealing, right? You guys have heard people say this. They're not worried that you're not taking TVs anymore. They want their TV back. You know what I'm saying? Like they want their money. You took money. They want their money back. You know what I mean? Like it's nice you're not stealing from people anymore, but they're still gone. You know? So like, let's get it. But it was nowhere around me. And fortunately, the only reason why it came around me this time is because I was so broken I was willing to listen to somebody. I was willing to listen to someone. And thank God this man had an experience with what he was talking about. I'm done with the theory, man. It's over. I'm done with it. It's all good. Have fun. I will be in the room with you. But it's just no interest here anymore. I want to hear experience. I want to connect in the heart when you're talking. I want to know what you're talking about is real, and if it's not, that's okay. That's all good. But something happens in here when something's real. You know, and you can feel it, man. And you know people when they've changed. You can see it. Something happened in his eyes. You can tell, you know. Go into their home. Go to their home group, whatever. Hopefully you see him as human as ever, having to make an amends to you by the end of the meeting or something, right? That's my story on the way here. We all stop at Dunkin' Donuts. Everybody has to get out of the car. Guess who's got to sit in the car with his wife for an extra 2 minutes? You better believe it. You know what I mean? Because whatever, my time schedule, my something, and I got a little snappy, and I didn't need to have a tone with a woman who I freaking adore. But I did. So we clean it up, we turn, give each other a little kiss, we keep it moving. But the reality is, but it's still wrong, and I still got to clean it up. I didn't know how to do anything like that until I started actually doing it on some form of with the entirety of my past. So we start with these work relationships, and I start going through this and make amends to these guys that I'm working with. It's like 5 or 6 of them, and then they all invite me to like this big dinner 2 weeks later. Right? So then I go sit at the table with them all. And I know what's going on the phones, and I know why they're going outside to have conversations. And I can feel the emails and I can feel the text, man. I'm sitting in this table and I literally feel like I used to feel when I was sober at like a holiday dinner. I felt like an alien. I was just like, what am I doing here? And I go home and I call Mr. Sponsor Man. I was like, hey, Mr. Sponsor Man, this is what's going on. But you know that the one thing they asked me to do in the men's, when I made a men's, they said, just please be our friend, Jack. And he said, Jack, when's the last time you took the word friendship to prayer and meditation? Come on, man. Where do you even find, you go to sponsorship school and don't tell anybody, big guy. Where do you even find that? Where do you even find that? Like, because I already know what's coming, right? I'm calling him and he's going to say, yeah, that's okay. You were a little uncomfortable, but you're just going to have to keep showing up and being their friend. When's the last time you talked to God about what the word friend means? Well, big guy, I know this is a shocker, but the answer is never. Never have I done it. Why don't you do that? Okay. You know, I'm really excited to see what comes back, you know. And what comes back? First word, love. What comes back? Second word, honesty. I ended up getting back on the phone with him. There was a lot more words that came. We don't make it past those two. And he goes, what do you think the most loving and honest thing to do with these guys is? And I literally was just I was just like, dude, there is absolutely no way that you're about to talk to me about going to talk to each of these guys again. And he was just like, I'm asking you what the most honest and loving thing to do is. And I was just like, man, well, you know, because at this point, a partnership with Cleo had been formulated that, like, outside of God, that's the highest priority, relationship-wise, you know? And to hang out with people that were conducting themselves in a certain way, it no longer fit because I wasn't respecting the woman that I'm in love with, you know? And there was a demonstration of principle that needed to be made. But do I just back out and stop answering calls, or do I need to have an honest and loving conversation with them first? It's just like, okay. I literally started, I'm just like, all right, man. You know, like, I literally, okay, just because you know what it felt like? Getting punched in the stomach. You know why? Because I was. And we know what was getting punched. Directly in the face is the ego. Literally just getting smashed over and over and over. And now here come the next conversations. These ones don't go over so well. These ones don't go over so well. These guys are not happy to hear that my life's on a different path and that if everything stays the same in their lives, there's no judgment and there's no hard feelings. But I'm not going to be around as much. And if I can ever do anything to help, I'm here. That wasn't like, oh, cool, Jack. Thanks for sharing, bro. You know what I mean? Like a couple, I was able to make it to a couple of them. The last one, who's the guy that I was the closest with, called me on my way there and said, don't come here. And don't say that. And you're not better than us, you know, and there's only so much you can do, you know. I can tell you that a few months later, I got a phone call from one of those guys, a text message, because we were actually somewhere far away. And one of those guys said something like, I just want you to know that I just walked out of the bank and I effectively closed down this company and all its bank accounts. And I know that everything that you did must have been really hard, but that you demonstrated something in that. I've never felt as great a freedom as I did from walking away this line of work, and I just want to say thank you. Wow. And it was like 4 or 5 months later. You know what I mean? After 4 or 5 months of fear, seeing them in LA or whatever, having to do a 10-step every other, however long, like, it's not like I just, like, then wasn't worried about seeing them. I still haven't been able to contact a couple of these guys since I got arrested. This was all pre that, but, like, there's still a lot there, you know, but it's like, walking with freedom amongst still stuff that would appear to make someone not feel free. That's like the real, I don't know, man. But this type of demonstration started to happen. Then it became clear, that amends obviously needed some major ones. There needed to be a direct conversation with Cleo. And it was a wonderful conversation with Cleo. But the demonstration outside of there and in the home, way more important to her. You know what I mean? Like that conversation was huge, but starting to bring honest communication into the home. Starting to, and honest communication about some stuff that, and that started with every time that I approached another woman, I let them know that I was in a committed relationship. And then when we got engaged, the message changed that I was engaged. And now that we're married, when I make an approach, I let her know that I'm married. Right out of the gate, just so you know what I mean? And I've gotten some funny responses back from that. One was like, what are you trying to rub it in? I'm not trying to rub it in, man. I'm not trying to rub it in. I'm just trying to figure out how it happened. Like, God is wild. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to rub it in. I'm just trying to come honestly. But that's how, but you would think that I might be trying to rub it in. That's the kind of guy I've been, We start going and seeing people, and I say we. Because my story's not just mine anymore. It's not, man. This woman came with me everywhere. Northern California, Denver, Colorado, New England, Connecticut, New York, Maryland, North Carolina. We're going to Texas. I went with her to San Francisco. Like, this woman sat in the passenger seat of cars outside of Starbucks where I went in and made amends to women for treating them without respect as a demonstration of God's love. Not because she's, scared about what I'm going to do inside the Starbucks, but because power started to flow, because freedom is real, because what this book talks about is so much more than words on a page. Because the experience that's available here, especially in making direct amends, is something that I don't know that I've ever heard talked about anywhere else except for other groups that had a process of restitution involved in it. I don't know about, I have no idea taking a relationship that at one point we thought was awesome and turning it into something, and we can only imagine where it's going. Not worried about it. Right here, right now, today, in love with my best friend, after getting to travel the country with her and make amends to people that I harmed exactly the same way that I harmed her, and effectively, as a result of that, be changed inside of our home. Taken from a man who couldn't not use human beings to validate himself to a man who is married and loves touching his wedding ring and will cry when he talks about the fact that God has made him able to be in the type of relationship that he's in. This is not about what I did. This is about power flowing through a broken person and transformation starting to occur. What? Why? Because I came back to you after being exposed to this message 6 years prior, after having a big book with my name on it and my sobriety date, after knowing the guys up and down the East Coast and Texas and California, after having all the knowledge. I came back to you broken, and that man answered the phone and said, "Are you ready to do some stuff?" And I said yes, and he is still walking with me to this day. Man, thank God for sponsorship. Thank God for those of us who are clear that we must work with others. Not that we're just this big old virtuous crowd that are always stoked to have someone calling us. You know what I mean? But that, I need to do this too. Yes, I love working with others, but also, I know that man answered the phone because he has to as well. And he got to that conference a day early because he has to as well. And also, I think he had a little inkling that this dude might mean business, So I'm going through this amends process, right? And there's this big one sitting at the bottom of the list, just like my work life. How do I make amends for essentially defrauding healthcare? You can say it a lot of different ways. We'll just call it what the federal government calls it, okay? Just for sake of simplicity. You know what I mean? Because that's my brain still just want to be like, listen, y'all, there's a lot of different ways you can talk about this. You know what I mean? Also known as conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud. So this is on the page, but it's like there's nowhere to just turn myself in. I have a partner now that I'm living with. There's a whole, and my sponsor's like, listen, Jack, the biggest piece was that it was very clear that if I went and turned myself in, that I would directly implicate people from whom I could not get consent to do that. So I couldn't do that. Period. It was end of story. The book is crystal clear. If I can't get that consent, I got no right to go throw myself, I want to be the amends guy, Captain Integrity, you know what I mean? I don't get to do that. What I do get to do is make the other 140 whatever were sitting on the list. Let's start going through them, Jack, and let's see what God does. Okay, sponsor man. You know what I mean? Just all right, dude. Okay, man. Okay. Yeah, all right. And what happens, right? We go and we start and we start going and we start seeing it. And all of a sudden, we're on this long trip. We're in a couple different states, and we're coming from Connecticut to Maryland. We come to Maryland, and it's a trip because someone called me on the way there and asked me. It was a guy I was working with at the time. And he said, "Hey, man, can you stop at my home group in Bel Air? It's 9 o'clock on a Monday night and talk about step 6. And I was just like, sure, if we can get there in time. I have no idea. We're on the road. We'll see. We end up making it. And at the end of that meeting, for some reason, because of the experience I was having or whatever, I ended up sitting in front of this room of people, small little meeting, but with tears running down my face, just saying, if there is anyone that any of you know anywhere that I've harmed, that I'm unaware of, please help me get in touch with them or help them get in touch with me. And if there's anybody in here that I'm unaware of that I've impacted, because I was in this little community for a while and it's small and things get a little funny, when untreated me is around, things get, rather sad. And it just felt like it came out of nowhere, and nobody came out to me after the meeting. I mean, people said hi, nobody was like, "Hey man, I know the person that your intuition's telling you need to make amends to." Nobody said that, But what did happen is at 10 a.m. the next morning, literally 12 hours later, I get a phone call as I'm sitting in on Awakening, getting ready to go meet 2 people to make direct amends, from special investigator blah, 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 special agent blah, blah, blah. And apparently there's 5 FBI agents sitting in my parents' living room. I hung the phone up and was just like, that is a terrible joke to play on someone. That is mean. And I called my dad, and he was like, Jack, I'm putting you on speakerphone because there's 5 FBI agents here. And I was like, there's no joke being played anywhere. This is real. What? This is real? And I just was like, okay, I'll be right there. You know? Pause, phone down. I got to wake Cleo up to this. She's still sleeping. I got to wake her up and say, honey, I don't know what's going on, but the FBI is at my parents' house. So how else do you say that? My sponsor, when we started first going through the steps, he said, Jack, if you ever absolutely need me, like absolutely, I need you to send me the numbers 911, and I will figure out a way to stop doing whatever I'm doing. Ironical numbers to pick, right? Anyway, but he says 911. Still to this day, that day I texted him and his wife in a group thread and sent those 3 numbers with a little blurb that I needed to get on the phone with him. Still the only time I've ever sent him those numbers. And within like 8 minutes, somehow, someone got him. Anyway, we got on the phone. He ended up in touch with a guy through AA that used to be a state's attorney. And they gave me 1 or 2 things that I could say, because I don't know what am I doing? Like, because I pulled up to this house. Like we were staying at Airbnb like 11 minutes away. I pulled up to this house, and they were not exaggerating. You know what I mean? There was a cop at the front gate of the development, and then there was one around the corner, and then there was 5 agents there, and they asked me to get out of the car, and they turned me around, and they put me in handcuffs right there and walked me right into my father's living room. This man's in his pajamas still, getting ready to have open heart surgery in like 3 weeks, and here I am back. Here he is back. The same dude that ripped the hearts out for years. Now he's back, finally changed, you know, and my dad, he's just sitting there, and he's just like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm just sorry you got to deal with this. And fortunately, you know, I was able to just look him in the eyes and say, Dad, we both know. Like, I'm sorry that you have to see this, man, and I'm sorry it has to happen here. But we both know that whatever needs to be done to walk through this and make this right needs to be done, and that's what we're doing. I'm just sorry it had to happen in your living room, bro. I'm really sorry, you know. And they put me in little body things so my arms can go around, and they take me downtown. You know, first they take me to some undisclosed location, start asking me a bunch of questions I'm not qualified to answer. You know, and after the whole time, right, I'm sitting in the back of this car, and they said, here's the arrest warrant, United States of America versus John C. Devlin. And I'm just like, the whole country? Oh, wow. Shoo. That sounds like an awful lot of people. That's a little scary, you know? And I'm sitting there, and I'm still, but inside, I am just, but I can do nothing but pray. God, please show me what to do and what to say. God, please show me what to do and what to say. And good Lord, show me what not to say and what not to do. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I get taken to this place, start asking me a bunch of questions, and I'm answering some questions about me, and I'm just being honest, and like this prayer is continuing, and then eventually some stuff gets brought up, and it becomes very clear, just like, I really just am going to need some help and some guidance. You're like, okay, then we need to put you back in the shackles and take you to get processed and meet the U.S. Marshals. And I was just like, okay, then I guess that's what we're doing. Just like, what is that? You know, it's like, all right, you know, and now I got flip-flops on, my hair's down, and I got a T-shirt on and some shorts, man, like looking like I'm headed to go catch some waves, not catch 2 to 4 years, right? Like, well, I don't know what's going on. I get put in this place, and all of a sudden I got ankle shackles on, I'm getting mug shots taken, and it's just this. It was the bizarrest experience, though, because the only time I've ever been locked up before, right, I was whatever. It was years ago, and it was not for this. But I'm in there with, like, an open heart. I get put in this, like, holding cell with 2 other guys. And I'm trying to ask them about what's going on with them, not to, like, get a scoop on their story, but just to, like, see if I can bring them anything, like any love in the moment. I'm just trying to serve. Like, I don't know what else to do. And this guy looks at me, and he's like, I'm in here for felony favors. I'm about to go away for 10 years, and I got a 7-year-old, man. I literally, all I do is sell trees, and I started getting into some white stuff, and I got caught up, and they were watching, and I'm not going to see my kid for like 10 years. And I'm just like, damn. You know, and I just start talking to him about what happened in his life before and what I could do, and you know what I mean? But just in the moment, still, tell me about you, man, because I can't stop thinking about me, that's for sure. You know, like, this is one of those times, you know, where this thing is it's all over, Jack. You know, and it's just, and what happens is, right, the A step has the word all in it twice. It's a short, small word. Well, my sponsor makes it very, there's not many things outside of it. You know, like all, right? This is a word that he stressed to me. This is a word that he stressed to me, especially as we started looking at amends, because he knows how driven by fear I am and how full of crap I can be. So he made it very, like we were going to put everything on the table. It didn't mean everyone was going to get seen right away, or God's in charge of who's going to see us anyway, at least just as far as I see it. I make an approach. I try and do it as respectfully as I can. If you don't want to see me or what, like, so I'm not forcing myself on anybody. I get walked down this. First, I'm trying to figure out how to stop the shackles from cutting my ankles. And I can't figure it out, so I have to ask the guard. She's like, ball up some toilet paper from around the corner and put it in there. And I was just like, thank you. Like, thank you. Because I was in pain. And I get taken around the corner, and I get driven down where I'm gonna meet the public defender, right, who's going to help whatever, to this arraignment, whatever that means, you know. And I'm sitting in this little thing. It's this little, like, feels like 5x5 box of cement. You know, and there's a metal stool that's like, you know, screwed into the ground. And then there's a little metal slab about that big so that you can sign whatever document comes under this little slit in this like 4-layered metal gate. So you can't even fully see the defender's face. So this is where I'm sitting. And I'm just waiting. And again, I can't stop praying. Like, I just can't stop praying. I don't know what else to do. I just keep asking, show me, like, what's going on. Please, God, like, I don't know. This is crazy. Is this really happening? This is crazy. I remember that thought kept like, this is really like, they really came. Like, I thought I was being grandiose about myself, man. Like, I didn't think they'd anyway, here I sit, right? And I'm looking down at this little piece of metal. And I'm praying, and I'm waiting for someone to walk in the door. And I look down, and I see that someone had taken some other piece of metal, and all I can see is this engraving of these 3 letters. And it just says A-L-L. And I was just like, what? Like, what are you talking? Wait a second. Are you telling me you brought me from Los Angeles through Denver to New England to New York to Maryland to get arrested and put in one of 5 holding cells to where I would be shown by you that you're the reason why I'm sitting here? What? Like, what? Oh my, what are you doing? Like, God, and I opened my eyes again, and it was sitting right there, shining at me as clear as day. This was not something that I was imagining. You know, I felt it, and I sat there, and within a minute, I just started hysterically laughing. I'm just like, this is insane. And then within a few seconds, I was like, I don't know that I should be laughing in here alone. They might think something a little funny, trying to put me somewhere else. I'm just going to chill out. But it was this experience of just like, I was somewhere where no one could find me, touch me, talk to me, call me, see me, visit. Nobody. And there it is, man. There it is. God's hand just skip, boop, beep, 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 beep. Don't ever doubt that I got you. And what's it like to be free, sitting right there in that moment, man? Was there still fear? Obviously. Was I still in the situation I was in? Clearly. Was I still shackled in my hands and my feet? Yes, but in that moment, man, I knew why I was sitting there. And it was way above anything that was going to come as a consequence from sitting there, if you know what I mean. There was a power, there was a purpose, there was a reason why I was there, and it was beyond the possibility of having to go to jail or lose all whatever it might be. And it was as clear as the day is long. That was June 25th, 2019. We've been living in Maryland ever since. You know, they gave us a choice to stay or go. You know, and we basically had to ask they were going to ask the lawyer where we were going to live back in California or Maryland. And we paused on the steps of the Newark courthouse because the case is out of Newark, New Jersey. And shout out New Jersey. and my wife I just said, I'm at this point, I just fully done. Fully done making decisions for our life, clearly. So, honey, where are we living? What's the deal? And she paused and she said, I think it'd probably be best if we were in Maryland, closer to the case, closer to, I think it'd be best if we were here. And, which meant that she was going to have to go move our whole life by herself because I wasn't allowed to leave the state. And that's exactly what she did. She went to California. She couldn't tell anybody why she was there because it was all closed information at that time. The only reason I can talk about it so freely now is because after a year I had to plead, and then it became, public information. But she couldn't tell her parents, couldn't tell anybody. And again, just this demonstration, and it's like, I'm not here to tell Cleo's story. I'm not here to tell even really my story so much. It feels more like I'm here to talk about what it feels like God's got the story that's going on in my life currently. It feels like I'm here to talk about what power has flown and in what directions we've been taken. And until I really got engaged in actually making direct amends, I never really had that story to tell. I had stuff to say, don't get me wrong. Always have, I'm sure I always will. You know what I'm saying? I've been talking for, too long to too many people about too many different things. But I never had a story about where this power has brought us. So it brings us to Baltimore. And what happens as a result of that? I got a guy walks up to me before this meeting, right? He drove up with us. This is another man, we've walked through the steps together, and he's been able to go and make amends to people that he never made amends to before, right? And he's been able to go see his mom, go see his mother and his brother, who didn't talk to him for 4 years before this sobriety because he overdosed 5 times in the county where his brother was an EMT and a chief fire guy, and always had to hear the calls going out about his own little brother overdosing. You know what I'm saying? And as a result of the process that I was shown, that I was broken and then brought to and then given the power to flow and somehow being brought here. Now I get to be a small little part of this man's story about the direct amends process that happens within his life and his family and his brother and their children. And we get to start talking about Uncle Matt. And we get to start seeing the son again. And then we get to start seeing men that he's working with also starting to make amends. 60, 90 days sober, talking about making approaches, getting out there, seeing the people that are seeing. This is what happens on the back end as well, right? I love what this process has done for me. But when I'm looking at even being able to be a small piece in a link, in a chain of power flowing into other people's families, man, you're getting somewhere that I don't know where else to get that. Now you're getting somewhere like you're getting once, twice, thrice removed, and God's still just whipping. I don't know. That is some incredibly powerful stuff to be a part of and to watch happen and to know. I don't meet these people living in California, driving a Cadillac, trying to figure my own life out. It's not what happens, right? This process gets reengaged. We get moved back here, and all of a sudden now, whatever, life starts to unfold, and our home starts to change. And now it's been a couple years, right? And they've still just done nothing but delay sentencing, right? Which to me, I was like, oh man, it's got to be really hard. I say, God's just let me build the best defense I got, which is the truth of my life. I was changed a year before they came. I'd been engaged and out and done it for 9 to 10 months before they ever came. And nothing has changed. Now it's just all been documented. I went to make an amends in Philadelphia at one of those diners that's really popular that if I remembered the name, you would know it. Chris, but I don't think it was Melrose. Maybe. Anyway. And I go in, and this is a guy that was in Jersey that I had working for me. And I had to make amends to him for that. We'll just say that, among other things. And it turned out that later on I was to find out that the first piece of discovery that was emailed to my lawyer in the case was a 21-minute piece of that conversation. of me making amends to this man, you know? And again, a common reaction is, oh my gosh. But there is nothing that I would have rather had them hear. Nothing. This is what you're going to get the day that we go in front of the judge. This is what you're going to get that day, and this is what you're going to get the day until I die. Hopefully, God willing, with continued action. The truth of what I've done, the truth that it was wrong, and the reality of what we're doing now. And that's all that was said there. And the first reaction was just like, oh my, literally, and wiretapped amends? Like, what? And then I was just like, that sounds, and I was just like, but that's the first, that's incredible. There it is, you know? And that's why they came very soon after that and knocked on the door. Because they were just like, oh, well, this is obviously done. I ended up talking to that woman like a year later, the special agent, and she called me while we were visiting some friends, and you take that call, you know what I mean? And I took the call in a private room alone, and because I was like, oh man, it took me a little while to like figure out who the number was, because I had it saved as like Newark and then a name, and I was just like, what? And then I was like, oh, and I was like, you know, the restitution number could have been a lot worse. And I just wanted to take a minute to like, I don't know who was responsible for that, but like you guys had a lot of leeway and could have done a lot of different things with that. And I just want to take a second to just say thank you to whoever that was that like helped that out. It's still going to be a very, very long road, but I just want to say thank you. And she was like, that was me. That was me and the forensic accountant, Jack. And the truth is that the day I arrested you, I knew that you were a changed and different human being than the man that was on those papers. I already knew that. And I've known it the whole time. It's true right now. And I was just like, man, like, I don't know if you got, like, and again, listen, if I had to pick my story, like, oh, I get to practice principles and demonstrate God's power to the FBI. No, y'all. Like, I'm not saying, like, that's what I'm picking. I'm not picking that for my wife. I'm not picking that for my dad. I'm not picking that for my mom who had to come back into a courtroom that day. This stuff was sad and scary for a lot of people. But that's the reality of, like, the demonstration of power and getting moved back to the one place where I had the most unfinished business. This is not a coincidence, right? Like, you're back in Maryland where 77% of your unmade amends list is sitting waiting for you. I know my sponsor at some point just had to be like, this is just a little perfect, you know, like, well, let's see who we got there. Well, Dane, you know, we already know who we, you know, there's a, you know, and what starts happening, you know, is I start going to the community there and going into some of the meetings where I could be a real separatist guy, and I could be a really arrogant, pretty rude dude, you know, and started making amends I made amends to this one woman there that was, you know, was pretty influential in the young people community there and helps a lot of people. And of course, I thought she was doing it wrong, and I was doing it better and whatever, and made it clear and blah blah blah. And what happens is that I end up, you know, we have a really positive experience, and it was a great amends. And then a couple days later, I approach this other woman, and she doesn't respond to me for like a week. And then she ends up coming and meeting me at this Starbucks, and she walks in, and she goes, there's a couple things I want to tell you. One is that, like, I didn't realize how much resentment I had towards you until you messaged me. So thank you for making the approach. And two, you made amends to my sponsor, and when I called her to ask if I should come here because I didn't think I should, she told me about the experience she had with you, and that's why I'm here. And I was just like, okay, didn't see either of those coming. I proceeded to make a whole bunch of amends for a bunch of stuff that I thought I did. I proceeded to ask her this question: is there anything else that I'm missing, or what's going on that I don't know about? And she starts talking to me about the fact that, you know, there was a man that I sponsored at one point, and we used his name on who overdosed and died at like 26. Drew, great dude, and we used his name on the company in LA. And this young woman dated Drew before he died. Not as he died, but not that long before. And was very close with this young man. And when she found out that I was making money doing what I was doing, and the name of this company was his last name at the beginning of it, this was very hurtful and harmful to her. And in her mind, to a lot of other people. Now, I was pretty asleep to this before walking into this amends. I didn't go into amends to make amends for this. Coming out of the backside of this, she basically helped me see that I needed to go see this man at his grave. So I texted her the next day as I'm at the grave, just asking her to help me find it. And she was like, I didn't think you'd be there so fast. And I was like, yeah, moving a little quickly these days. I'm pretty terrified of my whole life. And I'm afraid if I don't do it today, I'll never do it. Like whatever. I didn't say much except for I'm just glad that you told me the truth. And I'm just trying to figure out which one, like where is he in here? She helped me find it. And, if you'd have told me 10 years ago, I'd be standing at a microphone getting ready to cry, talking about making amends of grave site, I'd tell you you're crazy or stupid or overly spiritual or on another plane that I don't want anything to do with. You know what I mean? But the reality is that I went there and I knelt there and I sat there and I communicated to this man, to the spirit of this beautiful human. And after I got done, it was very poetic. It was gray and then the sun came out and I sat there and the sun came out and I just sat in prayer and meditation just asking for any guidance on what to do. And it just came like just a bolt of lightning. Like, you got to go see my mom, my dad, and my brother. And I was just like, I wasn't even going to come here, man. Whew. And then a couple other names dribbled out, and I was able to go see his brother who had just ended up slipping, and I was able to go sit with his mom and dad, and they were able to just tell me some stories about him. They lost their oldest son, and as a result of the pain that I had in my life, that brought me back to a place of willingness, right, to walk back through this process, and then to listen to the man that showed me what he did. A series of events took place where these people got this opportunity to share a whole bunch of stuff with me. And I was able to let them know about some stuff that had happened out there too, that they didn't know about. But it became really clear with my sponsor that, it's my job to tell them just in case this stuff hits the news. And that name, it didn't hit the news, but that name as a business is on public record, and it's not a good one, and they really appreciated it, and they were really understanding. And the reality for me is that I've been talking for an hour, and if I'm going to tell you the truth, I could keep going, right? This is a few stories in the current state of my life. The ripple effect that goes outward from taking these direct actions and making direct amends is it's absurdly incredible. And it doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's going to feel like sitting in that, it could feel like anything. I don't know. But our book's really clear, right? It says one thing in here that's really, really clear. And it says, reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience, we ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything. Why? Because God's in charge. Why? Because what's more powerful than God? Why? Because what can't God carry us through? And what's the alternative of not making them? If you're anything like me, you may be pending charges at 6 or 7 years sober. That was the that's the best I did. That's what I did, And what a gift it is to be able to share honestly about this gift. Man, what a deal. And I just feel so fortunate that I can just tell the truth, and just be with you all, and I hope that if you have not had an experience getting free, that that it's available, that if something is, there's still a bunch of people that maybe you could contact and you wouldn't want to see on the street, that I would love to talk to you about how I've been able to walk up and talk to a lot of those people. Because that level of angst doesn't have to exist anymore. And again, I feel really humbled to have been asked to talk about this and to have been asked to talk about it amongst the people that I'm with. And We've had a great day up until this moment. I hope you all had a good time right now, and I can guarantee you 10, 11, and 12 is about to be fire. Thank you all for letting me share.
All right. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to have to readdress my list. It sounds like. Just some housekeeping stuff real quick. These guys are going to be pulling their vehicles away, and then we'll get started.